I saw where a reporter at ESPN, Jeremy Fowler, had a 12-source story on Jalen Hurts. And the overriding theme was, he's patting the ball. He's not doing what the coaches want. He's reluctant to change. And part of me thinks, well, he's 5'11 and a half, 6 feet tall. There are things he may not see. You always hear that you got to coach what's available. Nick, certain coaches say, coach the player the way you want him to be, not necessarily what he is. You tell me with Jalen Hurts, when you see a story and people are like, it's hard to coach, reticent to change, kind of does his own things, he'll pat the ball, he drives the coaches crazy. Is what Jalen Hurts is really saying is, guys, I'm not comfortable with what you want me to be. I'm comfortable with what I am.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback, but the timing of that story that came out right after league meetings is when everybody's together, everybody's, got cocktail hour together. And so the stories, it's what people are saying. And so I would say for Jalen Hurts, obviously he's a great quarterback, but there is some talk about questioning, coachability, humility. And I think coachability and humility are two things that play really well in the locker room. Jalen Hurts is a well-respected guy in the locker room. But ultimately, excellence on the field is what people are going to respect the most, coaches and players. And so I think that this has been a little bit of an attack on him. And if I'm him and I want to unite the locker room, I just give off that vibe of like, hey, I know I've accomplished so much in my career, but I'm still going to take kind of a more coachable approach. And then for wide receivers, when you have disgruntled wide receivers year after year after year, it's not great for a locker room. So I don't know. I'm a believer in the quarterback as a whole, but I do believe that when you have the wide receiver group feeling like they're not a part of it and they got to beg for success, it's a bad place to be as an offense.
Okay. First off, there's been one disgruntled receiver and that's A.J. Brown. Okay. So, it's just A.J. Brown. Have you heard anything out of Devonta? No. And A.J. Brown with the Philadelphia Eagles has gone to multiple Super Bowls. Has caught touchdowns in Super Bowls. He's a literal Super Bowl champion because of the Philadelphia Eagles. Devonta now has one of the most iconic catches in Eagles history. Okay. With the dagger. What are we talking about right now? What are we talking about? And again, year after year, it's 1,000+ receiving yards, top in the NFL in receptions and touchdown like it's now. The narrative that we're trying to invent is just absurd. It really is. It's just genuinely absurd. They were begging to get the ball. Jalen Hurts was feeding A.J. Brown the ball in the playoff game in the wild card round against the 49ers and he dropped the ball. What did he have? Like 3 or 4 drops that game. I don't understand. Oh, he was so disgruntled in 2024. That's why on 4th down, on the opening drive of the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts throws him a dime. That's begging to be involved in the game plan. Why do we keep inventing things? I don't understand. And again, it's really funny because I don't recall A.J. Brown being so disgruntled in 22 and 23. I don't recall that. And then when they played an awesome brand of football where EY were able to run the ball a ton and win a ton of games and win the Super Bowl, he's then disgruntled. Huh. And now the idea what's so obnoxious about this coachability and humility is, so I talked about this over the weekend. But I want to emphasize this again because this take is just so absurd and so wrong. And he drives coaches crazy. He drove Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore crazy. That's not that wasn't stated. In fact, the article said that he gravitated towards the hard coaching. And that when he was given solutions, when he worked well with Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen, that they were able to meet and make things happen. Hence why they got to Super Bowls. That's literally what the article says. The article says it gravitated towards the hard coaching of Nick Saban and what? So, then you want to say that he's got coachability problems. No, he's got coachability problems when the coaches are bad. That's not Jalen Hurts' fault. I got news for you. You don't listen to bad coaches. You don't listen to coaches who tell you the wrong thing. I too had problems when I was coached by coaches that didn't know what they were doing. And you could have, and I caused problems. I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying that it was smart. But like I went at it with some coaches. The coaches who knew what they were doing and commanded respect, better believe I shut up, I took a knee, and I just nodded. I didn't even nod. You just don't move. You just go, you just lease. 10. But the coaches that didn't know what they were talking about, yeah, kind of did my own thing. I knew more than them at like I don't know, I was like a teenager than they knew as grown men. And that's not my fault. They just weren't good coaches. I didn't have that problem with the coaches that actually knew, the coaches that were actually professionals, that were either professional coaches or played in the pros or, whatever it was. Like I listened to everything they had to say. The other coaches, maybe not as much. A lot of times it was like, what you're telling me is wrong and I'm just going to ignore what you're saying. Because the guy who's actually my coach, he says otherwise. So, and now we're like, oh, he pats the ball. Laughter, what? I mean, now we're just trying to look for anything we can say now. And now we're lying about his height. He's 5 feet 11 inches. He's 6 feet 1 inch. What are we saying? He's 6 feet 1 inch. That is his verified height from the NFL from at the combine. What are we inventing right now? Now we're just saying he's a height that he's not. I don't understand. And again, that he lacks humility. He literally willingly throws the ball less. He willingly does that. He willingly had his passing stats plummet in 2024. He willingly changed the way he played football in 24 and 25. He was more strategic with not turning the ball over, etc., etc. He's the one that is the decider for the RPOs. He could keep the ball so much more. He could keep the ball and run. He could keep the ball and throw. Both things would technically help his stats and make him look like he's more important to the Eagles' offense. Snorts, but he doesn't do that. He willingly hands the ball off. And I told you guys this before, when he got in a fight with Chris Jones, when Chris Jones was talking trash and he goes, "We won the game." And you want to talk about humility? Are you serious? Like I said, and that response that he had is so telling for so many different reasons because he said, "We won the game." He didn't say, "What did I do to you the last time we played?" When I broke Super Bowl records and won the MVP. He didn't say, "I." He didn't say that. He didn't reference that. If he did reference that, that's a lack of humility. And I don't even want to say that would even necessarily be a bad thing because you have someone talking trash to you. So, it's not like he's just randomly would say. I could even defend that statement. But if we're talking about a humility spectrum, yeah, it would technically be more on the other side. But he said, "We won the game." And you want to talk about him lacking humility and coachability? Are we serious? Jalen Hurts also made the throw of that game to Devonta. So yeah, he only threw for 100-something yards and yet it was all-out pressure on Jalen and Jalen's getting crushed. Edition. He gets that throw off and hits Devonta. It was the game-saving throw. Game-saving throw. Last time I saw Patrick Mahomes try to make the throw like that, he got drilled, fumbled the ball and got crushed. That was the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. We can say some of the things that Jalen Hurts needs to work on. Jalen Hurts needs to be a better quarterback. Jalen Hurts has room for improvement without a shadow of a doubt. But now we're questioning his humility and coachability. It's just wrong. It really is. It's just wrong. And you're like, oh well, they're disgruntled because in 2024 you realize you know what's so insane about all of this? In 2024, okay? A.J. Brown only played 13 games, okay? So he missed 4 games. And still had 1,079 yards. He was top 14 and 7 touchdowns. So when you do the math, he would have been like top 5, top 3, all top in touchdowns and yards. And yet he still wasn't happy. And it's the same thing with Devonta. Devonta missed a whole bunch of games as well. He only played 13 games. He had 833 yards and 8 touchdowns. And so obviously if he played the full 17 games, he would have had over 1,000 yards, 10 plus touchdowns or so. So would have also been top, okay? Combine that with Saquon Barkley, who if he played all 17 games would have broke the all-time rushing record. So we celebrate when receivers get over 1,000 yards and like. Okay, that's the accomplishment, blah 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 blah. I mean, heck, Justin Jefferson celebrated as, an elite top receiver in the NFL and had 1,500 yards that year, okay? 1,500 yards. And so again, we have AJ and Devonta both in striking distance of that. Again, AJ Brown had 7 touchdowns in only 13 games and Devonta had 8. So it's not hard to imagine that they would have gotten to around 10 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 10 touchdowns, okay? He had 10 touchdowns, okay? Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1,200 yards. 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. So this is all within ranges of all the quarterbacks that everyone's like, oh, they're great quarterbacks and great coaches and great success. But for whatever reason with the Eagles, it's not enough. Not to mention that still combining the fact that Saquon Barkley was going to break the rushing record. So not only did you have insane passing or insane rushing production, literally historically great rushing production. Saquon Barkley had one of the most insane seasons on the ground in NFL history, and they still were able to get their receivers top numbers in the NFL, especially when looking at it through a 17-game season. Even when we don't look at it through 17. Again, A.J. Brown was still 14th in receiving yards. Do you know how insane that is? Especially when you look at A.J. Brown at 13 and you see 17 games, 17 games, 17 games, 17 games, 16 games, 15, 15, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. Oh, you need to play 17 games to get lots of stats. Makes sense, right? It's so absurd. It's so absurd. People said that George Pickens, they said that Dak Prescott is playing the best that he's ever played. And George Pickens was like an elite top receiver in the NFL. He had 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. Do you realize in 2024 that's exactly what A.J. Brown was on pace for if he played the 17 games? It would have been 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. And again, right below that Puka with 1,710 touchdowns, same touchdowns, and Jackson Smith-Njigba 10 touchdowns, 1,700 yards. A season that Jackson Smith-Njigba was so good led him to get the most money of all time for wide receivers and Puka to be crowned as top 2 receiver in the NFL. And with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. So the season that A.J. Brown was the most disgruntled and reading a book and A.J. and Jalen Hurts not doing good enough, not having a top passing game in the NFL, if A.J. Brown just simply played the full season, no matter what season we want to use as a reference 2024, 2025, no one said that George Pickens had a bad year. Nobody. And again, George Pickens 1,400 yards, CeeDee Lamb 1,000 yards and people are like, oh. Dak Prescott's playing the best football he's ever played and George Pickens is so great. He's going to command a top of the contract, top of the NFL contract. And again, he played 17 games. And Puka Nakua played 16, Jackson Smith-Njigba 17, Amon-Ra St. Brown 17. Zay Flowers 17. And I got news for you. Especially in 2024, those games actually mattered. Did the Cowboys make the playoffs? No. Did the Lions make the playoffs? No. That's weird. Did Puka Nakua get to play in the Super Bowl? No. Oh, my head's starting to hurt trying to make sense of all this. How does this make sense? George Pickens has a great season, puts up 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and it's unbelievable. Dak Prescott unbelievable quarterback. Even Shanahan getting all this credit. Jalen Hurts has a receiver, A.J. Brown. He actually has 2 receivers that he puts on pace to have 12, 14, 1,500 yards, 10-plus touchdowns each. And yet he's not a good quarterback. And he also still has to balance out the fact that he has a running back that was going to break the rushing record. So he was going to run an offense and get the ball to everyone involved where he was going to have the receivers be top in the NFL by any season metric and a running back who was historically great. Jalen Hurts was tasked to balance and run that offense and yet somehow it's not good. And the receivers are disgruntled because they want 1,900 yards. They want I don't understand. So 1,400 is great, but it's also not great. Or it's okay to be Jamar Chase. It's okay to be Jamar Chase. Come on, man, you're making me look bad right now. Have 1,700 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns. 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns and not make the playoffs in 2024. Yo. You guys do see how this doesn't really make sense, right? Like we were clear about that. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Jalen Hurts and this conversation that truly is never ending? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. Some of you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.